Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are now at the very end of January of 2023, and that only means that a lot of Star Wars fans are getting geared up for Star Wars Celebration on the horizon that's set to arrive by this April. That's going to have a handful of new announcements for Star Wars TV shows, Star Wars canon and lore, as well as John and Dave presenting a lot of unknown aspects of the franchise that will come forward. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, the thing about John and Dave is that they are constantly pitching big ideas to the higher-ups over at Disney, and Disney is loving every single bit of it, and it's exactly why they're allowing John and Dave to stay in power, having all of these privileges and gaining more privileges over at Lucasfilm, to calling the shots creatively, financially, and more on really propelling this franchise in a brand new path. Now, looking at everything about what's been going on between Favreau, Filoni, and Lucas, they are working together as a trio of a team to really kind of just bring Star Wars back to the way that it used to be, right? And they also have a big mission in mind, a very big goal, to really kind of just bring back the lost fans that walked away from the sequel trilogy movies, and especially what happened to Gina Carano afterward. Now, moving on. One thing that is very exciting here involves George Lucas, the father of Star Wars, right? The guy who created it back in 1977, and exactly how this does indeed involve a new Star Wars movie that's currently in the works that is going to involve George Lucas. We're going to be going over the details and what Disney CEO Bob Iger has to say later, so we're going to tap into that within this post, so stay tuned. Now, with John and Dave preparing to make big announcements at multiple events for Star Wars this year, they also have been in the talks with many creatives and actors about their future with the franchise. As of now, creators George Lucas and Jon Favreau are getting involved with the future of Star Wars coming back to the cinemas, one of which has to do with an all-new Star Wars trilogy that will be centered on the Old Republic era, that is currently in the early development phase with numerous notes already created by Lucas and Favreau. Now, furthermore, George Lucas is said to be a co-writer for the first film of this trilogy so far, with the possibility of co-writing the two after that. However, Lucas is said to be responsible for handling the writing of a specific character known as Darth Bane, who created the Rule of Two that will be told in part of this new Star Wars movie. So let me just stop right here for a second. Now, we already discussed about how this Old Republic trilogy is now in the early development phase, and how it's going to be centered on multiple Sith-oriented characters as well as Jedi-oriented characters. On the Sith side, so far from what we know, it's going to center on Malgus, Bane, Revan, stuff like that, and that's just for the first film alone. And that really does kind of raise a lot of interest levels, right? Because it also gives a lot of Jedi-oriented characters to be in the middle of the story. Now, the thing that I like about this, the fact that they have all eyes on really using George Lucas to co-write the first film, and how they're going to have him involved in the first big blockbuster movie for Star Wars when it comes to this trilogy, is that it doesn't stop here. There's a main reason why Bob Iger is allowing this, and like I said before, we're going to go over what he actually had to say or tease about this, is that they know that Star Wars really needs that George Lucas material. It needs some kind of level of it from himself personally, and not just carried on. And that's not to say that, you know, if George is not on set, Star Wars can't survive. We have creators out there like John and Dave working hand in hand with George every day. But if he's not there, he's not going to be with us forever. Does that necessarily mean Star Wars will fail? Not necessarily. You just have to have responsible creators that respect his work if he's not there. So anyways, this is a big deal. This is something very exciting about what is going on behind closed doors. Now, both Favreau and Lucas have all eyes on actor Michael Fassbender to portray the role of Bane in the first film, The structure of these movies is that each film will tell a tale of 4 separate stories that all eventually intertwine somehow, some way, across different eras within the Old Republic. Now, in a recent interview with Disney CEO Bob Iger, he even went on to tease about Lucas's involvement in future Star Wars films by stating the following: "We are looking to evolve, and part of that evolution is correcting our wrongs we made with this franchise. We are looking at multiple ways that we can have George involved with the future of Star Wars coming to the cinemas again, and how we can create a balance between his vision and others involved. We are discussing this every single month, and progression is moving well so far." So, the thing about Bane and all these other, characters that are inserted into the overall Star Wars canon is that there's a lot of complexity to these characters, and they have to be fleshed out accordingly. They have to be written very well. And I think that John and Dave have enough brains to realize that you have to really respect the lore that's already in Legends, a part of those characters like Bane, Malgus, Revan, etc., that's going to become a big part of this new Star Wars film to kickstart this new trilogy. And it's not just that. It's also the fact that we have, of course, new characters also coming into the equation to balance things out. So this is something that fans have been asking for from the very beginning. Number one, they wanted something that would shift away from the Skywalker saga. They wanted something completely new, but something that's also already grounded. And that's exactly what this is. Some fans may not want an Old Republic trilogy, but you know what? At the same exact time, I think it's the best way to go about doing it is because it already technically exists in Legends. It's there, you have tons of source material to pull from, and that's exactly what they're going to do. So John and Dave used that. They basically used that as momentum to create a proper series of new films, and Bob Iger just wanted George involved as a co-writer because he needs that George Lucas vision to really make this all possible. So once again, so far Disney is not going to be prematurely announcing films, but this is all happening behind closed doors. So far, they're focused on a format, having multiple trilogies coordinated with the release of one-off movies that have nothing to do with anything. Just single Star Wars movie releases. And it's basically what they did before in the past, right? You had The Force Awakens, then Rogue One, then The Last Jedi, then you had, of course, after that, Solo, then The Rise of Skywalker. And then that whole dynamic just ended, because they just stopped making movies. So they want to pick up on that structure again. And it may not be the best structure to some fans out there, but I think it's a great alteration to have a trilogy movie format bouncing back to a singular movie format. So anyways, guys, let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.